In the first two conferences of this series, presenters observed that there are many often competing views of what the crisis is and what it is not. One cannot study a problem and propose solution until one identifies what it entails. In other words, we must define what the crisis is before we can study it. So what do we mean by the crisis? The sexual abuse of children by clergy has been most widely discussed, but there are other aspects to the crisis that can, and we argue should, be considered, such as the abuse of teens and vulnerable adults, predation in seminaries and the priesthood, widespread unchaste behavior among the clergy, failures of monitoring and detection. How could such scandalous behavior have gone unnoticed? Silence. Why didn't priests and bishops who knew about misconduct speak up? Leadership. This mishandling of abuse cases by church leaders, including inadequate responses and attempts to cover it up. Note, this issue is not limited to our bishops. There are important questions about the Vatican's handling of these issues as well. Last but not least, for many, the spark that reignited the crisis is the McCarrick scandal. How did he advance to a high position? How did any bishop credibly accused of misconduct advance to his position? Diverging viewpoints on what constitutes the crisis might help explain its mishandling. What some consider the primary problems, others might consider secondary or even a non-issue, which makes consistent and effective responses potentially more difficult to achieve. Overall, we believe that attempts to impose a single definition of the crisis is unnecessary and detrimental to identifying and correcting the underlying causes of the crisis. For the purposes of our presentation, we believe it's best to define the crisis broadly as consisting of all of the above elements, as well as others that we have not articulated here. Having said that, we acknowledge that understanding how McCarrick happened is especially important to many American Catholics.